Do you like movies and games also? Listen, so much more they all know. Pyro, Lotus and friends, welcome to Corrective Consciousness.
Welcome to Corrective Consciousness, episode 98, the podcast about our lives and love of pop culture. I am your host, Vice the Bold. Lotus Prince. Whoa, Vice is not here today, and this is...
PyroJackFrost.
And Dracologist.
Welcome, everyone, and welcome back, Dracologist. So, we have an interesting show here for you today. Got a bunch of topics to start with. Dracologist, why don't you set us up? How has your week been? Or actually, well, it's been more than a week for you. How has your past time been?
Oh, please. Life in this week was pretty horrible. Like, bad news after straining event after straining events. Just in short, my job is kind of running out, so I have to find a new contract.
Gotcha. That can be stressful for sure.
And for others, like I think I said it before, like my friend in Brazil is having a little bit of a civil unrest is brewing there. And well, other bad things are happened. We're going to talk about those later. Yes. Do you want that? Should I start, or because I might going to gab off on my end a little bit too long?
I mean, just go for it. I mean, we got a good bunch of time.
Okay, well, for starters, in gaming section, I think I would like just to say I think I bought Mega Race 3 for all time sakes. Sadly, it might have not been the best decision because something is not exactly right with the version.
I don't know that. I don't know that one. What is Mega Race 3?
You know the Mega Race series at any? I
don't think so.
The Mega Race was a sort of shooting racing arcade game. You're not exactly racing. You basically hunting down other vehicles. The game was game was advertised with the extra that you have this.
Is it almost like Twisted Metal then?
Yeah, I was gonna say it sounds like a precursor.
It goes on a racetrack, but the point is not to make rounds. The point is to get score and kills.
Okay, so it's almost like reverse Mario Kart then. Like Mario Kart is a race where you can shoot people, but this is more like a shooter where I guess there's a race. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, point is that you basically hunting cars on a racetrack.
You know, that almost reminds me. I was just gonna say this is obscure, but it almost reminds me of Streets of SimCity. Like,
I know that game.
There was a game called Streets of SimCity.
For real, yeah. It was a car race where you had missiles and stuff, and you could even import your data from, I wanna say, SimCity 2000 and race through that. I'm sure it aged horribly, but that was like the coolest concept ever back in the day.
I remember Simcopter, but oh well.
I never played that, but I know of it.
I played
a little bit. The demo. Anyway, the game selling point in Mega Race was that there was this TV show host, because this was a whole game shtick was that this is a TV show where violence is allowed and you are hunting down various gang members and bringing vigilant justice to them without any kind of repercussion. And the main selling stick that there was this game show host, Lance Boyle, played by
really Lance Boyle?
Yes.
Come on.
Lance Boyle, if you get the joke.
That's so bad.
He was kind of funny. He's constantly berating the player with various vitriolic comments.
Sure.
Constantly calling out like, "Look, he's almost dead. When are we going to see the player death?"
That's so irritating. That's almost like a more like high key. I don't know what the opposite of low key is. If it's high key, but like version of Manhunt, kind of.
I wouldn't say so. That he's incredibly entertaining in that regard.
Okay.
And the first was in shooter. The second game was more racy, more race centered. The third game was a big leap because it completely takes new content. Like the game was moved from sort of this armored vehicle to sort of these wipeout like vehicles.
Okay.
That could change between three modes, like an offensive mode, defensive mode, and afterburner mode.
Nice.
And the game was taking the concept of micro machines to the next level, basically not moving from desktops and kitchen cutting boards to microscopic levels. Like one of the first levels is called mouse cut, and you are riding along pulsating walled organs and floating cells, and you can riding on membranes and stuff.
That sounds like, I mean, it's a radically different game, but it sounds like the first level of Abadox, where everything is just, like, organic and creepy.
Isn't the entire game is organic and creepy?
No, it actually gets more machine-like as you advance. I was actually kind of disappointed. The first
which one is Abadox?
Abadox is a shooter on the original Nintendo.
Isn't there where you guide as sort of this astronaut wearing a jetpack and a gun?
I think so. It's been a while.
And, well, there's, the trope called the womb level. Like the flashy walls and everything is alive.
Yeah.
Called the womb level.
But it gets more and more metal as you advance. I was kind of like, okay.
Anyway, here is the game, from biological levels, there are some, you are racing in an underground tunnel of some sort of animal. Mm-hmm. You are, of course, everything looks like a racetrack. That doesn't.
Sure.
It's a very old game, and they could not make very distinct things.
Yeah.
The levels have to look like some sort of level with a racetrack at some point.
Sure.
It's visually reminds me of Need for Speed 3 actually. Anyway, the game it's a little bit shallow on the game end because you don't have single player race where you can customize what kind of race you want. You have arcade, you have a career, and you have catastrophe, which every level is commented up by Lance Boyle with a very, very funny things. You can look it up, I think it's somewhere on the internet. And you go through various skirmish-like races where you have to get from A to B point very, very fast, or race through a racetrack and kill the other player that is basically your target, etc., etc.
Okay, so that almost sounds like Need for Speed. Oh no, not Need for Speed. Excuse me. I'm thinking like Burnout, like Revenge, where sometimes you have like target cars where like you are racing, but you should probably take out that particular car.
Well, anyway, the game has it's a very badly unpolished diamond. It could have been much more.
Sure.
A lot of vehicles have very poor handling by default. The changing mode should have had the perk that if you switch to speed mode, your top speed increases. If you switch to defense mode, you can corner better. So you would actively change modes between various parts of the track to adapt.
Yeah, that is a clever idea.
Sadly, it's not implemented in any way.
Oh.
The only thing is that each module you use adds a slight bonus to various statics of your vehicle. Like if you employ a different thruster, it maybe decreases somewhat of your max energy, but increase your handling.
Okay. Now wait, when you say there are attack, defense, and afterburner modes, can you change them on the fly, during the race?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, basically, so it's almost like Star Fox 2, where it's now you're in a walker, now you're on a spaceship mode, that kind of thing.
Yeah, except it's all the little space, they wipe out spaceship modes, and they change they slightly change visually. One of the first vehicle called the Vulcan has this sort of almost Xenomorph is a cockpit and two little thrusters that can rotate.
Okay.
And when you engage attack mode, it raises up its head and it almost look like the air-type cockpit, air-type vehicle's cockpit. And its angle, its thrusters are under it in angle. If you press the defense, then it pulls the thrusters under itself and lowers the cockpit.
Okay.
And if you switch to is a speed mode, then basically just the cockpit remains flat, but the thrusters are swinged outwards, completely vertical.
I mean, I do seeing
horizontal.
Horizontal. Now, I do like seeing stuff like that though, with little subtle changes in the vehicle, especially if you get to see it animated as it goes.
It's not that subtle, but it's basically you can recognize which mode you are using.
Okay, well, yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. The other thing was basically hit me like a sack of bricks that I was watching, that Warhammer 40k and Warhammer Fantasy getting a child enabler book.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Basically, there is a new sort of, I don't know, it's a comic book or visual. It's basically how to put it? It's basically Warhammer for children.
Sure.
Now,
wow.
I don't know. Lotus and I, we've spoke about Warhammer, I think, a few times, so you know how is the situation? What's the one per one there?
Yeah, I mean, basically, from what I saw on like Spoonie's Twitter, his basic description, like, correct me if I'm wrong about this, Dracologist, but his basic description of Warhammer was that, like, everything sucks, and like the hardcore like fascists are like pretty much the good guys in this universe because everything is still worse.
Yeah, well, yes, there's nothing good about the Warhammer universe.
Yeah, it's a world where glory has to be achieved with blood, but it makes it a little bit more sweeter. That I think I showed you that video about the Hell's Reach, that guy's animated person.
Oh yeah.
I recommend for all of you to watch it because it's glorious. All four.
Yeah. What's the name of the video again? Is the name Hell's Reach?
Yes. Okay. Hell's Reach, like with one L, like the.
Like in Norse mythology, Hel.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, Hell's.
Well, the planet is called Armageddon, so the naming of those places are often very menacing.
Yeah, hyperbolic, if you ask me, but yeah.
Anyway, so. I was thinking about okay, so there's a children book there's a Warhammer book for children, and I was thinking okay, so how would you gonna enable sort of this world of blood and is it honor to small kids?
Wait, you said it's a book?
If they like it, what's going to happen if the parents going to can we going to bought this novel about the actual universe?
I mean,
and they read it, and they're going to get scarred for life.
You never know, because there's been stupid little kids cartoon versions of like RoboCop and Rambo and like everything G.I. Joe, which is representative of just like real war and everything. So like what about little kids who eventually see RoboCop? It's like, I mean, I guess they survived. So like Warhammer's brutal as hell, but it's just another hard R-rated thing that also has kiddie stuff for some reason. Like Terminator had a bunch of toys for kids, and it's like, I want to watch Terminator now, and it's like a horror movie.
Yeah, but, well, if you ever seen the movie Event Horizon, you're going to know why it's not for children.
Yeah, Terminator is like the closest we get to like a Warhammer 40k the movie.
No, Terminator is far, like... I'm not sure is there any kind of sync there, but
Event Horizon was amazing, but that is a brutal movie that apparently was still cut for like violence.
Yeah, well, Event Horizon basically is a warning movie about why to use Gallard fields in space travel. Gallard fields are devices are used in starships during war travel to basically cloak the vehicle from demonic presences.
Jeez.
So the ship can basically because in Warhammer universe you travel through the warp when you traveling faster than light, and if you make any kind of if you notify your presence will be notifying that the demons and they will eat your ass.
That's almost like
I don't think my ass tastes that good.
I will probably not. But like that's almost like Lovecraft in space, though. It's like you're going between worlds. Like you don't want to piss off the creepy stuff hanging out there.
Yes, well, if you look at the picture of Zinch, you will know why.
Oh, that one. Okay, yeah, that was
Zinch is the god magical.
Yeah, the magic with scheming and stuff. Yeah.
Yes, he's a very Lovecraftian. Like often they call it the bucket ripoff. Naril-hotep.
Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah, Naril-hotep was kind of like the more, like probably the most coherent one of the elder gods.
No, actually, I think the Naril-hotep was the most hostile of the elder gods. He constantly wanted the humanity to be dead.
Yeah, but like it could talk to you. The others were just kind of like forces of nature. Like you're not gonna talk to Cthulhu. Like it's not gonna work.
No.
It's just gonna kind of come up to you and smack you. Like Nyarlathotep,
Do
I
you
think
talk
could
to
actually like try manipulating you directly.
I think Hearthstone and Yog-Sothoth, even this old granny Shub Nigurati was able to communicate with people.
Okay, fair enough. It has been a while since I've read Lovecraft. Just the one thing I remember is when you play the Arkham horror game, there's an expansion where instead of going up to the boss monsters and just rolling dice forever and probably losing, there are like some cards you would draw during turns that affect how things are going to play out. Like the boss gets a health boost, or you get a health boost, or some stuff like that. And one of them, there's for Nyarlathotep, there's a thing where Nyarlathotep can like whisper in your ear to like join him, and if you do, then you can kill the other player characters and have like a bad end where you win, but that's like not really a win.
Yeah, but why would you want to?
Because it's kind of badass. It's like, no, I want to say that I won. I'll screw the whole party over. Like, I win, it happened, it's fine.
Did you really win? Did you?
Well, that's the question. Like, no, not really, but like, you put the game into a win state. Good job.
You ended the match. That's
pretty much. You ended the match and are not
like
dead. So all
using
right.
Armageddon in Worms and then everybody dies.
Yeah.
The game ended. That counts.
Can't say it didn't. Yeah.
Anyway, wanted to say that. Okay, so Warhammer Fantasy and Warhammer get like two separate groups of three children. And it's like reading like the descriptions of these children. It's like one of the kids on the fantasy level was like, "Oh, he's an alchemist and mage of second to none." Really? Second to none?
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
I know it's a figure of speech, but considering that Zinch is the key god of magic, and that's a little bit of an insult to him.
Well, maybe it means second to none, like among humans, like or among his school or something.
Yeah, but that wasn't mentioned. So
I mean,
like
that is true, and
I shirt inside out.
Like honestly, as much as I do tend to be a literalist, like I think it's kind of a given that you're not going to be better at the god of that thing.
Yeah. Okay, this is just picking on the kid who.
Yeah, I don't know. He's a cool kid, I guess.
I wouldn't. Like the second character was like some girl who is a like expert mechanic and can use it, but he doesn't like weapons. And like I was looking at her, and so why she's wielding a giant steel hammer menacingly, like in an attack position. Like maybe she used it to menacingly punch in the rivets. All right.
Yeah, that is kind of funky. It's like I don't like swords because like I'm a blacksmith, but like to say I don't like weapons, it's like. I mean, like, the series is called Warhammer. Like, what are you doing?
Wait for it. The third character is a girl who is who's a gladiator fighter in a chaos slave camp.
I enjoy that this is kiddie material.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she somehow is not corrupted by chaos and not turned into a chaos spawn. And somehow she survived against 2-meter tall brick shithouse of warriors with a slingshot.
Like you do.
Yes. Very, very, very champion of her.
Yeah.
Now moving on to Warhammer 40k, it even gets even better. The first character we introduced to is a young lad who left behind his recruitment to the office to become a gang member. Basically become not just a criminal in the process, but also a traitor to entire whole of the human an imperium of mankind. Basically, the first main hero is a traitor. Okay, good. We're starting good.
A true inspiration.
Yes.
The funny thing is, how many cartoons were there when we were kids that like had like an episode, like one episode dedicated to like peer pressure from like joining a gang or doing drugs, and it's like, no man, that's not for me. It's like, and now your hero just was like, yep.
Basically, the kid was like, no, I don't want to be an imperial soldier, and left.
All right.
And I'm surprised there wasn't a commissar there to introduce him to one of his bolt guns.
I was gonna say you could just walk out, like, wow, all right.
And no, you don't. Generally, if you turn your back to the battlefield, the commissar is there to shoot you.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, he turns like the Imperium, and he's just like, "No, I'm out," and he gets out. Like, okay. Like, the Imperium is that like Starship Troopers, like fascist army that owns everything. It's like you could just leave. Okay.
Nope. You have to rub out your name from those files somehow in order to survive.
No kidding.
Okay, the second character was again a girl who doesn't like weapons, so which in 40k is even worse because everyone wants to eat your face. And she's an archaeologist who likes various lost technologies and ancient civilizations. In short, she's like Xenos stuff, which is generally considered a little bit heretical. So the Inquisition might visit her on every now and then.
Well, here's the thing, like the stuff you're saying, where like the commissar will shoot you in the face, or like you're considered a heretic and the Inquisition will get on you. Like, are these concepts addressed at all in the book, or are you just saying that because you know the lore better?
This is what happens in the real lore. In the novel, probably this is just character descriptions. I never seen the book is not out yet, but
okay. Because I was just gonna say, like, if it's a kid's book, are they really going to address that stuff? It's like you're a heretic, and like the Inquisition is going to come and like melt your face.
Diluted like it's like 1%. It's one drop of corrosive acid in a massive bottle of water. So no, like the story is that the world of the 40k universe is a hard place. Well, that's putting it mildly.
Yeah, it's a hard place. Like, yep. All right.
I don't want to say very offensive stuff right now, but I could make a few comparisons. So,
I mean, yeah, that's like saying like Arrakis in Dune or like Tatooine in Star Wars are dry places. Like, yeah, they sure are. Yeah.
And then the second, and like the funny one was hilarious that the third kid is a Mechanicus adept, or not adept. He's a initiate or a novice. He's a kid with like an.
Well, here's the stupid thing about that word adept. If you are adept, adjective, it means you're quite talented at something. But if you are an adept, noun, I think it does mean you're a rookie or an initiate. So it's like.
Anyway, he's some sort of inventor in a 40k universe next to the Adeptus Mechanicus, and he's like to invent stuff, and this is like little make robot machine.
Yeah.
Which brands him to be a heretic.
Yay.
Because if you know your lore about the Adeptus Mechanicus, they don't like people who invent stuff just willy-nilly. The only thing, like someone said, the only two songs you hire from the room where the Adeptus Mech Priest and the Tech Priest and this kid would be. The first would be the sound of the Mechanicus Priest. The optics would be zooming onto the kid, and the second would be the sound of a Volkite weapon banging. So yeah, this is bad. This is really.
I'm actually curious to see how these novels will play out then, because I'm sure they're not going to go like full on dark, even though that's kind of all what Warhammer is.
I mean, just people are worrying like this kid's going to do like, they're going to defeat the bad guys so easily because it's a children book. Like the Warhammer 40k first enemy is the first enemy they introduce are the Necrons. The robot skeletons with giant disintegrating lasers.
I loved playing as them in like the RTS game. Those were my favorite race.
Which one you play? Soulstorm?
I forget what. I think it was just. It's been so long. It's been since college, but I just remember playing the Necrons because they're basically you could take over the dead bodies of your enemies and make them into more robot skeletons.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, they have this recycling ability. Yes, and their weapons are basically just giant gauss weapons that pull the molecules off your body very, very rapidly. So basically, you're flayed alive, disintegrated in seconds.
Brutal. I'm sure that'll be in the book.
and of course, when they mentioned the Space Marines, that they are the most bravest of them are the Ultramarines. And someone said, "Well, I know I smell the Ward." It's speaking about Matt Ward, one of the well-known writers of Warhammer 40k, who was later basically is hated by everyone because of what he did in Warhammer Fantasy, basically pressing the big reboot button and killing off everything the community liked and loved.
Oh.
And implementing basically the Age of Sigmar. You have to look up why people not liking that. So yeah, this like this book series will be a little bit dodgy in a few places. I do want to address that you mentioned like toys, and I personally thought like WG like DGW should really look into making childlike like sort of like action toys from
Yeah,
Warhammer 40K.
like I know that there are millions of like really like intricate figures that you could paint and stuff like that, but those are for like more like models than actual action figures.
Models and units for the tabletop.
Yeah, the actual
strategy
tabletop game. Yeah.
Yeah, and they cost a fortune.
I will bet they do. Yeah.
Like one of the comments was that the kids go in with their new little Warhammer adventure book, and they come out with their parents' credit cards maxed out.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like Pokemon. It's like, remember the card game? It's like, oh god, like if everyone was buying all that stuff at first.
Yeah, well, unless it's less about random and more about that these things that cost a fortune.
Well, yeah, with Warhammer, you know what you're getting. It's just that there's a million of them.
Yeah. But if someone would say that WG making like a toy line of, I say, Imperial Titans and Knights, I would fucking buy that in a heartbeat. Like those looks fucking awesome. Like if you could, like you could take an Imperial Titan or Emperor class Titan and make them one of those large sort of, you know, there all times there was like these castles and fortresses that you could turn around and you could see inside.
Oh sure,
could,
yeah,
like,
yeah. You open up on a hinge or something. Yeah.
Yes, open it like you can see various units, various figures inside. The Emperor class Titan would be excellent for that, and you could also function as like this giant mech, like this basically mech that is a size of a fortress.
Nice.
And like you could have those little spring-loaded little rockets inside its massive cannons. Like I don't know, it's possible that many of the features would be lost in this bet because you know the Gothic tracery would not be well made on such a model, but
yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, for last I do want to say, like I would like to say that the last thing, sorry. So like if one of those toys would be an Imperial battleship, that would be awesome.
I could imagine the Warhammer toys, especially now. Like now that people are putting more like high quality like sorts of models and stuff out than they used to like 30 years ago. I'm sure that stuff would look amazing.
Yeah. Personally, I was thinking like what I would take right now it would be one of those opinel versions of Vulcan, the Primarch. Just a big smiling black guy with a giant green armor and a big hammer.
Nice.
Okay.
That's super badass.
That's it for me.
All right, then how was your week, Pyro?
It was pretty good actually. I did a lot more of the usual stuff that I usually do, but so I'm going to start with the non-usual stuff. I saw Deadpool 2, but I don't know how much we really want to talk about that because it's going to be pretty spoilery.
No spoilers, but I freaking love that movie.
It was amazing. I went into it, and I know that I heard a lot of people saying that it was going to be good, and I was like, okay, I mean, cool, why not?
Yeah.
I did not expect it to be as good as it actually was.
Yeah.
It wasn't perfect, but yeah, it was a good sequel to the first one.
Yeah, and
I'm glad that
yeah, go ahead.
I said I'm glad that I heard that I should have watched Logan before watching that movie because of the minor spoiler.
Yeah, like I mean, I have not watched Logan, but like by this point, I think that spoilers kind of made the rounds anyway. So like, I wasn't like, oh, when I watched Deadpool, but yeah, be warned, I guess. But what I was gonna say was that I do appreciate that some of the jokes in Deadpool 2 are compounded from those in Deadpool 1. There are definitely some callbacks and some evolutions of certain jokes that I feel worked quite well.
Yeah.
Well, what I heard that the jokes, someone said that the jokes are a little bit 50-50.
There was one joke that I was like, you didn't really need to bother with that one, but most of them I thought landed. Also a whole bunch of just weird cameos that were like amazing.
Oh my god!
I'm not gonna say who they were because most of them were surprise cameos, but it was brilliant.
Yeah, I was like, I kind of heard about some of them, but when they actually happened, I forgot. And then when I saw it, I'm like, oh, I forgot that he was in that movie, or I forgot that.
Yeah.
Like the X, Y, or Z. But yeah, I definitely recommend people seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really hoping they keep making Deadpool movies because he's my favorite Marvel superhero.
The next will be X-Force.
Oh, yeah, but I'm hoping that they keep making movies in that universe. The comedy superhero
Yeah,
movies,
I gotta say, that one thing I really did not think that Deadpool would do would be to, like, expand the universe it's in. But it brought in a bunch of, like, it brought in some original creations, like some original characters to the movie. But it introduced a lot of concepts that, like, it seemed a little far-reaching for a Deadpool movie. So, like, I wouldn't mind seeing that expand.
Well, I'm glad that they... I think after the first one did well, they decided to actually connect it to...
Yeah, they had more of a budget besides. Yeah.
The X-Men, like, worlds. That's why they did some of the things that they did.
Yeah, even one of the cameos made a nod to, like, something that I didn't think... Like, again, it seemed far-reaching for, like, the Deadpool canon. So it was pretty...
Also,
intriguing.
Yuki was my favorite character.
Yuki was a blast.
Who?
It's just a character.
She's an original character to the movie.
I don't think she is actually original to the movie.
No?
The name.
The name?
Yeah,
that's the character's name.
Yeah, Yuki. I think it's Y-U-K-I. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yuki. All right.
Yeah.
I'm just worried about that. They may accidentally stray into the humor of the video game Deadpool.
That I wouldn't know. I plan on playing that soon, actually, because this movie's existence has gotten me in the mood.
The game. They say the gameplay is okay, but the humor is just so tripe, and the character is so not funny.
The funny thing is, I heard the opposite. I heard the game was funny, but the gameplay is like mash square a bunch of times until the enemies fall down.
Well,
like the gameplay is competent, but like you're there for the story.
No, the story is that it's very cheap meme jokes.
Yeah, I watched Vice. I watched Vice play. The gameplay looked kind of repetitive, and the comedy was like hit or miss. Okay. There were some things that were actually really funny in the fourth wall breaking. I think my favorite part was he has to cross like a huge gap that he can't jump across, and he starts talking to himself, and the speech bubbles like appear on the screen, and he's like, "Wait, keep doing that," and then you like jump across his speech bubbles to get to the other side.
Great. That reminds me of Marvel vs. Capcom 3, where he like beats you with his own health bar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, apparently one of the reason he has multiple speech bubbles because some sort of spiritual entity was residing in his head. I think the problem was with that the video game version had actually no pathos. Like, someone said that Deadpool was originally a very, 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 very sort of, how to say, so not grimy, but someone who has
just repetitive.
A lot of things on his. No, he had a lot of things on his shoulders.
Oh,
like the character has a lot of.
Oh yeah, he has a chip on his shoulder.
Not chip, like the weight, like.
Oh, he's burdened.
Burdened, yes, thank you.
Okay.
He's like in the video game, none of that existed. He's just a Bugs Bunny basically with a.
Oh, I got you. He's just like goofy all the time.
Because I read up into that too. So yeah, the original Deadpool was still like humorous, but was very was a lot more dark. But then when I forget who the writer was, one of the writers wrote him as more comedic, and that's when they sold many more comics. Was after he did that, so they kind of changed Deadpool into be more of a comedy kind of thing.
Like old school Deadpool was pretty much he was just like a straight villain who was like too cool for you, and like he was okay, I guess, but he didn't really have much of a personality that like was noticeable.
They just fell over with the whole humor thing, I think, and to the other side of the horse.
I gotcha.
Yeah, that's like part of the humor in the game was meh, but I have faith in Ryan Reynolds and Marvel because Ryan Reynolds has basically almost full say as to what's going to happen with Deadpool. So I kind of have faith in him to do that well.
The movie was great. I've seen the movie. It was great.
Yeah, video game is Nolan North is the voice actor, right?
Yeah. He voices everything.
At this point, yeah.
But yeah, to
Steve
move
Ballmer,
on,
Nolan North.
Right.
I finally purchased Strange Journey Redux, the new Mega 10 game, but
Nice.
I just bought it today, so I don't have it yet. But I still need to finish my Discworld book. I'm just really looking forward to it. And as I was thinking of playing that, I picked up my 3DS just to make sure, first of all, that if I need to charge it or not. But Final Fantasy Theatrhythm was in it.
Mm-hmm.
So I started playing that for a little bit, and I realized after playing that I like the arcade version so much more, which is actually surprising for me. I prefer to play like console games, but which is actually interesting. So like a little bit of a story. I didn't like Dissidia, the new Dissidia Final Fantasy game, because it was too much like the arcade game.
Mm-hmm.
I liked Dissidia when it was a single player like map that you went across, and you had to obviously still fight people on every single tile almost, but there was more to it. You were leveled, whatever. And the new version doesn't have that. Whereas Theatrhythm, I like the arcade version more because I like unlocking all the songs, and there's like so much more I feel to it with the arcade game that the 3DS one doesn't. Plus, I find it a lot harder now to play the 3DS version since I've played the arcade version, because I have the joystick that I actually can like hold on to, let's say, and the buttons. Whereas in the 3DS version, I feel like I'm going to break the screen whenever I'm tapping it, because like it's a rhythm game, so I have to tap in time, and if I get too nervous, I might feel like I'm tapping too hard.
Punch through the monitor.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask that if next on Dissidia, has anyone played or seen Pit People?
Nope.
No.
Huh. All right. It's the new game from Behemoth.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I did hear about that, and I heard it's actually pretty fun. Just the annoying thing is you can't like control who you attack or something like that. There's a really weird mechanic to it.
It's a positioning gimmick.
Yeah.
Like you have to play with the positioning proper if you want to maximize the efficiency of your fights, and that brings the strategy to it actually. So also, it has a sort of Pokemon like captured enemies, where you can combat enemies.
That's interesting.
Capture and convert enemies.
That's
and because
really
most of your one of the units you can the first unit you recruit is a sort of this little living cupcake, and he basically is a healer. But anytime he heals someone, he chips it off from his own health.
Because they're eating him.
Now, well, he has a little catapult on his hand that sends bits of him flying to other members. But yeah.
Yeah, so for my mobile update, let's say, I tried playing Granblue Fantasy a few more times, but I just keep saying, you know what? I'm going to wait till the Persona 5 collaboration, which is out like in June. But that's probably going to be the last time I play it.
Okay.
So I'm kind of just sticking with it to play the Persona 5 collaboration, because that's how much of a Mega 10 loser I am. So I've been playing Hearthstone some more, and I've gotten more of a hang of it, and more okay with some of the really annoying bits of it. But there are times that I'm just like, okay, whatever. Like I think one of the most annoying things that I'm facing right now are there's a couple cards that you can get, let's say, that the card says if you start the battle with this card in your deck, upgrade your hero or reduce the cost of your hero power. And I'm like, so you have a card in your deck that you got randomly that basically makes you better than me for the whole game.
Yeah,
and that seems kind of unfair.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that annoys me. But I'm kind of like, you know what? It doesn't matter. I can keep fighting until I win.
I think. Oh, sorry.
What was that?
I wanted to say, like, if you have some sort of card like that, you have to balance it out by making that card completely useless in the actual game.
Well, the card itself might not be that good, but it's. I think it doesn't matter that much, because you basically are getting that card's power without doing anything other than having it in your deck. Whereas most cards, you need to actually play them to get their use for. But that being said, if I die, it's not the end of the world. In ranked play, you don't you can't lose your rank until you get to a certain point. But once you get to that point, you get everything that you might need for the month to get everything, let's say. So I don't care. And it's easy enough to get free stuff, so I'm just going to play it. It's fun to play every now and then. It's just annoying sometimes when I'm playing a match that takes longer than I think it will, and I have to get off the bus or whatever it is, so I have to concede the match whether or not I was winning because I don't have time to finish
Yeah.
it, or I get off the bus and I'm just a loser standing there on my phone like before I get onto the train. There's been one time when I've considered missing my train so I could finish the match, but I'm like, you know what? That's a bad idea. Life comes first.
I wouldn't play like the sort of this way. That like I wouldn't play a ranked match in public. Like
Yeah.
that's not a good idea, especially if you are next to heavy goods vehicles.
Well, yeah, definitely. Well, I only play when I'm like on the bus or I am like waiting for my train, but it's still the same thing where I try not to play ranked matches just because it's more if I have to lose. I don't want to lose progress for whatever it is, but it is what it is. It's fun enough to keep playing it. And then for my Final Fantasy XIV update, I've been trudging through it. I'm very, very close to getting to the latest expansion, which I bought like a year ago and haven't played yet. So I'm making my way to that. But that being said, that has been my week. I've actually been doing more than I thought this week.
All
So, Lotus, why don't you kick it?
Sure. So, first thing is I was playing a classic that I grew up with the shareware version of when I was a kid. I know that Pyro, you and
Chips
Vice...
Challenge?
Not that one. Good guess, but not that one. No,
I like Chip Challenge.
that
That
a
was
good one.
amazing.
But no, Pyro, I know that you and Vice are like more shooter guys than I am, like with the planes or the spaceships, vertical or horizontal shooters. I never really got into that genre except for one game because I played it when I was a kid on like a shareware compilation. Have you ever heard of Raptor: Call of the Shadows?
I did.
I have not.
Yeah, Dracologist, I'm aware that you're aware. Pyro, Raptor is a rare case that, again, you and Vice are the shooter nerds and you don't know it because it was released for Windows. Like, what's that all about? Like a shooter?
No, it was a DOS
Or
game.
DOS,
It
you're
was just
right.
remade.
Excuse me. Yeah, DOS. Which is also weird. But yeah, you're like a military plane attacking other military planes effectively. But the graphics were pretty cool by the time. Music's not bad. Sounds pretty good. And what's like the cool gimmick of the game is that between levels, you're in a little hub area where you can go to a store and you can buy weapon upgrades for yourself, and you can even sell stuff that you have and don't need. You could also...
That's interesting.
Yeah, and health carries over. So if you lose health, it's lost. So you could buy health back. And if you're feeling really gutsy, you can actually sell some of your health in 25-point increments. If you really need just a couple of extra bucks to buy some super weapon or something. So it's a pretty clever way of handling the game. And there are 4 kind of episodes, or no, 3, excuse me. And each of them has 9 levels, and they get progressively more difficult. And I think each time you beat an episode, your game difficulty steps up a level, up to the hardest difficulty. So by the last level of the game, I had to make sure that I had the best weapon in the game and like 5 extra health power-ups like shields, like the bombs you can drop, of which you can carry up to 5. It got pretty intense, but it's a pretty sweet game. And so I finally beat that for the first time ever this week, so that felt pretty good. I've only ever been able to beat like the first episode because I never really put more effort into it than that. Yeah, what's up?
I played Raptor Call of Shadows. I think I played with the shareware as well, but I remember it being good, and I basically bought the Steam version, played it, and I thought, like, well, this is the point I'm taking off the nostalgia glasses, because it felt very, very unwieldy compared to the other shoot 'em ups I played.
It is you are kind of slidey in that game.
It's not slidey, slow. You're slow. Your hitbox. It feels like if someone tried to make a bullet hell but didn't bother with the hitboxes.
I didn't really mind the hitboxes so much, but like what I had to get used to was the movement. Like you do move a little bit weird in that game. I don't know what it is, but like you have to kind of compensate for it. I remember when I first showed Vice, I was like, dude, this is the game I grew up with, and I couldn't like play it. So like I got used to it now, but it definitely doesn't feel like tap a button and that thing happens. Like there's a little bit of compensation you have to do. It's difficult to explain.
Yeah. It has a little bit of a weight to it. I think
It kind of does, yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing I didn't like is that the weapons are very, very wimpy.
The weapons are what now?
Wimpy. Weak.
I didn't mind them. I mean, there are some that are more expensive where you're like, oh, I thought it'd be better. But the last weapon's ridiculous. Like the twin laser, it's nuts. Plus, you can compound your basic stuff, so you are better than you otherwise would have been.
Well, there is a constantly firing weapon, then there is an
yes.
weapon that you
yeah,
can
the selectable. Speaking of selectable weapons, by the way, one thing I didn't mention is that you know how in like all of these kinds of shooters you're attacking planes, but sometimes there are tanks or sometimes there are buildings you could blow up for points or whatever. There are weapons like your basic little pea shooter machine gun can hit anything, but you can buy like weapons that are only good against air targets, and you could buy like air to ground missiles that only hit ground targets but do insane damage. So if you want to go for buildings, you should quickly swap to that and then swap back to your air stuff for fighting regular enemies. It's kind of a cool little dynamic they throw in.
It kind of reminds me of like something like Astro Assembler or Dragon Spirit, where you had a secondary fire. Well, you didn't have a secondary; it was fired constantly, but there was like this little bomb mechanic that you could fire a little short-range weapon in front of you that was only good for hitting ground targets.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of
I do have to say
similar.
that I have to say something. If I ever learn how to stream, I have to show you Tyrion, because you're going to be blown away.
Yeah, Tyrion, I haven't played it, but I know it's a classic.
It's a classic and it's fucking legendary.
Nice.
Also, and like the firepower is fucking significant. Like, if you thought the maximum weapons in Raptor was the laser beam, you never seen the fucking plasma storms and the Zika laser.
No, I know that in other games the weapons can get freaking stupid, like in Darius, like just over like crazy lasers. But like within the context of Raptor, the twin laser is a blast. Like it's like yes. Otherwise, after Raptor, I streamed. I was going. My original plan was to stream the Taito beat 'em up Growl, because I had played that at Vice's place. He'd introduced me to it, and I was like, oh, that game's pretty cool. So I wanted to stream Growl, and then I realized it was like a 30-minute game, so I'm like, I better stream something else. So I streamed 2 games. So one of them was Growl, and the other was Arabian Magic. Both of them are Taito beat-em-ups. And they're both really entertaining, but Arabian Magic, I think, is the better game. Growl, you're a bunch of people fighting against poachers. I mean, like, according to the plot, they're poachers, but just everyone's attacking you with guns and knives and stuff, and you're like, is that what poachers do? But like, as you go through the levels, you do see animals locked up in cages, and you free them, and depending what they are, like a bunch of like deer will stampede the place, or like male deer, like bucks will stampede the place, or birds might like fly you over small gaps. Like, it's a really amusing how the animals like directly help you out. Like, they understand you're the good guys. That's kind
I
of
like how the elephant rammed the tank and the tank exploded. Like,
oh yeah, the elephant. Yeah, like you see a tank and you're like, the game tries to play, like the game's not realistic at all. But like, if you see a tank, you're not gonna fight a tank. And so when a tank shows up, yeah, the elephant just immediately rams it and takes out the turret. It's like, well, that was fortunate. And then the guys climb out of the tank to fight them.
And that end boss.
The end boss was legendary. It's so stupid. I'm not even going to describe what it was. Yes. You kind of need to see it.
Yes.
Arabian Magic was a really cool game where the characters actually felt different. Like in Growl, your characters had different stats, but they pretty much played the same. In Arabian Magic, they felt a little bit different. Like, the girl has small range projectiles. The other guys are like different shapes and sizes. Because in Growl, you're all kind of just basically the same looking. There's like 2 body types.
Yeah, like one of them is Muscle Indiana Jones and the other was called Randy Savage, I think.
Yeah, that must have been it. But in Arabian Magic, it's like a very like Arabian themed, like, you know, your characters look like you're out of Disney's Aladdin kind of thing. What was cool about that game is that if you hold down the attack button, you can actually defend. There aren't many beat-em-ups I can think of where you can just straight block. And there was one thing that I thought was really, really cool. One of the things you could do, just like Growl, there's attack and there's jump. That's it. But Arabian Magic offers a third button, which summons what the game described as a lamp ghost. And I'm like, you mean a genie? But the funny thing is, your first summon is a genie, and he goes like, oh, and just beats the shit out of everybody. But the funny thing is, Lamp Ghost actually is a better term, because some of the bosses you beat are like, I'll join you, and then somehow they just go into your lamp, and they're not genies. Yes. So it's like, well, awesome. Damn, they're lamp ghosts. Like, there's like there's one level where a sorceress summons doppelgangers of all 4 of your party members, so you have to fight like all of the player characters, and when you beat them, they'll just join you, so you could summon them briefly, and they just like clean up. It's kind of fantastic.
Basically, you can summon your own posse as needed beat up the enemy.
Yeah, there's
awesome.
an enemy called Asura, which has like the 6 arms with swords, and he'll join you. It's like, yes, like it's so cool.
Oh yeah.
And the game had a lot of really clever level design. Like in one level, you're shrunk, so you're walking along a table, and like you're tiny among normal-sized objects that look huge, and then you get shrunk into like a magic bottle. And then somehow within the bottle, you get shrunk into another one. You get shrunk like 4 times going through levels, and you're like, what? But it doesn't matter. It's really entertaining. Otherwise, this is a bit of a callback. I had mentioned a long time ago, I think, on the podcast that I tried playing Shadows of the Empire on the PC, like Star Wars Shadows of the Empire, because most people play that game on the N64. And, I didn't even know there was a PC version until like a decade later with full cutscenes. So I was like, I want to play this. And like the graphics are better besides because, you know, N64 versus PC, come on. So I was playing, but the thing with PC is that if you slide the mouse forward, your character moves forward. Like you can use that to move. And it is so easy to die that way because nobody plays that way today. I was like, let me move my mouse to aim, and I just run forward and I fall off a cliff or something. Like, this is bullshit.
Oh yeah.
So
that was the old Doom mode of using the mouse.
Yeah, it was horrible. So
because back then there was no up-down view. There was forward,
exactly.
backward, right. And
so
turning.
What I had to do was customize the keyboard controls to try to not use the mouse. So like, it was really difficult to implement strafing and turning because there are some times where I want to press an arrow button to turn, like to whip around corners, but other times to strafe. Because the game's old and clunky, so it's not really easy to strafe turn. Because normally it's extremely easy. You strafe and you whip the mouse around, but like can't do that. So I eventually used WASD for like I used both the arrow keys and WASD. W and S and up and down were both move forward, move backward. A and D were strafe, and left and right were turn left and turn right, and that worked well enough. And I actually managed to beat the game for the first time. Beat the game on PC for the first time. Feels good, man.
Which one? Like Shadow of the Empire, right?
Yeah, that's the first Star Wars game. I mean, you can argue the weird Super Nintendo Mode 7 thing and Super Empire Strikes Back, but not really. Shadows of the Empire was the first game to properly introduce the harpoon and tow cables flying around the AT-AT. That blew people's minds back in the day, and then every Star Wars game after that found an excuse to do that, like Rogue Squadron, Rogue Leader.
If I don't remember, I think isn't that the game that starts with you riding one of the snow skimmers?
Yes, the first level is Hoth, and you're Dash Rendar, and the bad guy is Prince Shizor, whom you never actually meet.
All right. I think I've played the demo of that game. Started by like blowing the cockpit off with the blasters with the snow skimmers.
Yeah, it's pretty rad.
Blown up one of the AT-AT's cockpit.
Yeah. Like your enemies are probe droids, AT-STs, and AT-ATs. And the AT-AT you can kill by fire, but you kind of should use the harpoon and tow cable because it's generally faster, ironically, even though it gets you a challenge point.
If I remember, I used the mouse to aim.
Yeah, well, when you're on a ship, you can use the mouse to aim, and it actually feels right. But when you're on foot, nope. don't even think about it. Otherwise, the other game I streamed, like during my other stream, this is something I didn't think I would find interesting. Like I bought it as like a curiosity, but it was a Wii game called like Hidden Mysteries Titanic, like Secrets of the Fateful Voyage, and I thought it would be like a cheesy point and click like find the object game, and it
was it?
It does have a little bit of that, but it's a proper point and click adventure. Some of the puzzles do use moon logic, but I think the main thing that the chat and I discovered is that for a point and click game, I think this is one of the least likable like characters you play as in a point and click adventure. Like you're kind of awful based on the puzzles you have to do. For example, this is the Titanic. It's 1912. So, okay, you're a product of the time. But, like, damn, man, like there's a chapter where your husband is feeling queasy. He's seasick, and he's just like, oh, I don't feel so good. And I'm like, well, seasickness isn't a big deal. They have pills for that now. Would you like to go to the doctor and get a pill? And he's like, no, I don't want to appear weak in front of the captain. And I'm like, well, I could bring the doctor to you. And he's like, no, that's far worse, because then everybody sees I have a doctor talking to me. I'm like, well, maybe you could not be such a little freaking wuss and just suck it up and get your damn pill. So, but eventually you're like, okay, what if I go to the doctor and I get a pill and give it to you? And he's like, okay, and because you're like, I could discreetly put it in your drink, and then you could drink it, and no one would know that you had to have pills for your seasickness. And he's like, okay, that sounds good. So, fine. So I grab a glass of water, because, like, this is one of those games where if you can click something, then you should. So, you know, I pick up a glass, I put water in it, and I thought that was going to be for the pills. It really wasn't. I just kind of have a glass of water now. It's fine. So I walk over to it, and it turns out I wanted to put the glass of water into cold storage, like on a cart. And I was like, why the whatever. If the game wants me to do it, I'll do it. I'll figure out why this makes sense later. So anyway, I go to the doctor, and the first thing I try is saying that I'm seasick, so he could just give me pills, which is, like, highly illegal today. I don't know about 1912, but man, you could not do that. And if you're caught with that, that's a bad move. But so you're like, oh no, I'm so seasick. And the doctor's like, you look pretty okay. I mean, like, all I really prescribe for you is just walk out on the deck and get some fresh air. That should probably be good enough for you. And you're like, okay, look, I'll admit my husband is the one who's seasick, and he's a little freaking candy ass. So, like, could you just give me the pills and I'll give them to him? And he was like, but again, seasickness, whatever, just walk on the deck and get some air. And you're like, yeah, I know, but it's a matter of pride, and he's going to have dinner with a captain soon, and he kind of needs, like, a right now thing. Do you have, like, an actual pill for this? And the doctor's like, technically I do, but I'm supposed to give them as an absolute last resort because they're, like, pretty addictive. And what you are describing is definitely not last resort. So I'm sorry, no pills for you. And you're like, ah, damn. So I kind of can't complete this quest at this point. So I go out and find other things to do. So I go out onto the deck, and I see the shuffleboard court. What I was supposed to do is go back to my glass of water in cold storage, which is now frozen over. And the water, because it froze, broke the glass and spilled out a bit and froze into the shape of what vaguely represents a shuffleboard disc. So I have my ice shuffleboard disc, and this is something someone in the chat had to outright tell me. I was not figuring this out. They tell you to use motion controls to, like, thrust your Wiimote forward to, like, slide the disc, and I can either do poorly, where the guy's like, oh, shucks, too bad, or I can do a stronger pull or push and score some points, and the guy watching is like, excellent job, but neither of those gets me anywhere. What I was supposed to do is aim way off to the side and clearly aim wide of the mark, like off the shuffleboard court. So I shoot the shuffleboard, like, ice puck, and all of a sudden I hear, ah! And it turns out that off to the side, I had either hit a guy or he had stepped on my puck and he'd slipped on the ice, and this officer, like, injured his ankle. So he, like, can't walk. So now I go to the doctor, and I tell him, actually, there's a guy on the deck who's injured. Can you go deal with him? And he's like, yes, okay. Just don't touch anything. And then I break into his closet and get the pills. I'm like, I'm a piece of shit. So, like, I've straight up injured a dude, and now I'm stealing doctor's medication. Like, I'm a pretty reprehensible character, all because my husband doesn't want to look bad by drinking pills or popping pills in front of other people. And it's just like... fuck you, man. Like, this whole thing doesn't need to happen. Other than that...
If I may...
Yeah.
If I may, just one thing, like, I do want to say that you have to play Deponia games, because the main character in that game is...
I have heard that you're kind of a piece of shit in Deponia. I have them. I haven't played them.
Not kind of. You are a literal piece of...
Oh, straight up?
You are...
Yeah, I haven't played those, but I have heard not so good things about your character in that game. I just don't know what they are, but I'll find out eventually. I have the trilogy. I know that there's a fourth game they recently made. I don't have that one, but I do have the first three. Otherwise, just advanced more in Yakuza 6. I'm almost ready to beat the game. I've done most of the side stuff that I want to do.
Yes.
So at this point, just get through the chapters.
It was fun watching you play Virtual Code.
Play which one?
Virtual Code.
Was
the spearfishing, because Virtual Code and CCP
yeah, the spearfishing minigame, which is like just an on-rail shooter directly. That was pretty cool.
I think we had an argument with one of the other watchers, like, hunting shark is not okay.
Oh, yeah. On one hand, if it's self-defense, that's one thing, but on the other hand, I am absolutely provoking, like, everything.
Yes.
Also, by the way, that was the first time I played that level. At this point, I have a way better harpoon gun, so that shark fight, that final shark fight, is, like, a minute and a half long. It's, like, not even close.
What are you hunting on the end of those missions? The fucking Kraken?
I mean, there are 3 missions. One of them literally is a Kraken. It's a giant squid. The second one is a giant octopus, and the third one is that shark. Like, that big bloody shark is the final boss. Like, quote, final boss. Yeah. So, took him out. Yeah, boy. So, yeah, I'm getting close to finishing Yakuza. I'm excited to see where it goes. I think I've seen most of the game's basic premise. I've seen the reveals for that. Now, the only thing I really have to do is see who lives and who dies, because there's always someone close to you who dies. I just don't know who it'll be yet, but there's gotta be somebody, and I'll see who the final boss of the game is. I have a guess, but we'll see how it plays out. Otherwise, that's been my week, so at this point we can move on to questions. Now, first things first, response to last week. Last week we had asked. Last week we had gotten the question, why might you buy a bad game other than for the lulz? Fakavan said, I have bought Sonic the Fighters because I secretly love that game. It's so bad, but I love it. I know that feeling. There are certain things that are just plain not good, but it's like, I like it. Yeah.
Yeah, just wanted to thinking of like what kind of bad games I want. I think I bought a game called Oxide, which is incidentally a ripoff of Raptor, Call of Shadows.
Interesting.
And because it was that cheap, and I wanted, hoped that it was a very good shooter, but it wasn't.
Oh. Now the other response we got was Josh111888. I remember buying the Legend of Korra game, but mostly because it would support the Avatar franchise. That's a good point. That's something I hadn't considered. Like, I bought Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City. Like, nobody likes that game, but I'm buying a Resident Evil game. So I kind of get it. I don't even know if I'm going to like it, but I get it.
I think like the only positive about that game was that it was made by Platinum.
Oh, was that real? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it was their least popular game, actually.
Okay.
Like, it
now
followed up by Devastation, Transformer Devastation.
Gotcha. And now we could get to this week's question from Diana Gohan. This is going like back to when we were talking about the Smash Brothers for Switch reveal. So the question is, since your reaction covering that Nintendo Direct, which talked about that new Smash Brothers, what would be the one video game character you would like to see in Smash, or one you would not want to see in the new Smash?
Boy, I'm not the best person for this kind of question, because I kind of hate Nintendo, but oh well.
Well, it doesn't have to be Nintendo. They have freaking Cloud, so like all bets are off.
And Bayonetta.
Bayonetta is Nintendo now.
Well, now, but I don't want to now, because I want to play the game.
Yeah.
I do actually want kind of like what I don't want to say is actually the Doomslayer, because that would be a little bit silly at this point. Like, what, we're gonna glory kill Mario? That would be an interesting.
It's just like a one hit. Like, oh, that's not fair. Pyro, what were you saying?
I was saying I want Tingle.
Oh, as an actual playable character?
Yeah.
Dude, make it happen.
Who?
Tingle from Zelda.
He was this like really stupid Legend of Zelda character.
Yeah, I know who it is because
like a 35-year-old man who dresses as a fairy.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's too good.
If I wanted to add someone, maybe Trace from Axiom Verge. He would be actually an interesting character.
Is that the person you play as in Axiom Verge? Like the Samus of that game? Okay.
Trace. His name is Trace. He's a scientist with a very, very interesting alien gun. Like, I would like that would mean that you could like glitch out other enemies and parts of the environment with him.
Gotcha. I really have difficulty with this because it's always like so many options that I never know what to lock down. I this isn't a character I'm dead set on by any means, but it would be kind of cool to see Solid Snake again, just because. Like that's not even probably the one I'm most hyped for, but I don't know who I'm most hyped for. So Snake is a character that I can think of that would be kind of cool because we've already seen him, and maybe he would be like the Metal Gear Solid 5 version, because you know how like Ganondorf was like his Ocarina of Time version in Melee, but his Twilight Princess version in Brawl. Like maybe it'd be like that, like newer version of Snake or something like that. That'd be kind of cool.
Like the one version from what was that?
Actually, 5 isn't even Solid Snake, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, the guy with the shrapnel in his head.
Yeah, the guy who is basically Snake. Shut up, it's fine.
But yeah, I don't really know any other, like, I don't really want to get into the what other series characters do I want in Smash, because that could go forever.
I know, it's just anything. Think of a character. It's like, geez, I don't know.
Yeah, so instead, I'd like to just think of Nintendo characters, but even then, I can't even think of many Nintendo characters they don't already have in there that I would want to see in the game.
Yeah, they're really covering the bases, and like and they're bringing in the Squidlings too. Like that was quite a surprise from Splatoon. Yeah.
I wouldn't say it was. It was pretty much mandatory for that to happen.
Well, I thought it would just be like a port to a system that people actually own. Like I didn't think they were going to add the Squidlings. Like that was pretty sweet.
I do want, like, considering how much indie games Nintendo binges nowadays, because basically he picks up they kind of take in indie games as the farmer puts hay on the truck. Just dig him with a pitchfork and throw him up on the system.
Yeah.
And
honestly, good for them though, because it's a good way to play them.
It's a little bit. Well, nowadays I don't know. You heard like Nintendo, like even the consoles are no longer safe from the absolute drag of the quality of what was once Steam Greenlight.
Yeah, but I mean at that point, buy the good ones. I mean, that was always the case. Like Steam has a lot of garbage, but like don't buy it.
Anyway.
Yep. So
I don't know. Maybe
any other input on this matter, guys?
No.
I just wanted to say one.
Yeah.
Maybe Dust from Elysian Tale would be cool.
I need to play that.
Fantastic game.
Yeah. So I hear. Yeah, I hear it's brilliant. I just gotta play it again. Like I have it on GOG, just haven't played it. All right. So
another thing to stream.
Yeah. Anything else?
Nope.
All right, so that is the show for this week. We want to thank all of our fans who contributed questions, and please keep us supplied with awesome topics by submitting questions of your own on the YouTube and SoundCloud pages. While there, please give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. It helps us promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement keeps the show going. You can also catch us on Thursdays on our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness, the in-depth look at this week in our lives. Finally, you can friend me as Vice the Bolt. Whoops, I read the script too closely.
Hey, it's the same joke used at the beginning of the show.
Yeah, full circle. It's not funny this time, or probably even last. So you could follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You could hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you are interested in getting in on exclusive live streams, seeing my videos early, or even selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, then consider swinging by my Patreon account, which can be found at patreon.com/LotusPrince.
And I'm PyroJackFrost, and you can find me as PyroJackFrost or Cloud08540 on PSN, Xbox Live, and other places.
And I'm Dracologist. Or you thought I was Dracologist, but it was Vice all along.
Nani!
But yeah, you can find me on Discord and on Steam under the name Dracologist.
All right, and speaking of Vice, you can find him as Vice the Bold, VYSETHEBOLD, on pretty much anything. So, that's the show for this week. Thank you for listening. Until next time, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Good evening.